I remember standing in a queue in the corner shop in my neighborhood when I was about 12, 13 years old. I was with my dad, and what I remember is standing behind a black gentleman, and the shop owner, who was white, ignoring him in order to serve us. What really stands out for me from that memory was the firmness of my father's voice informing the shop owner that he would wait for the black gentleman to be served first. This is one of many stories I have of being born and bred into apartheid South Africa from the mid-1970s onwards. It illustrates the paradigm I inherited around apartheid, which was that it was wrong and unjust from my mum and dad. But I'm also well aware that being born into apartheid meant that from birth, I also had unbelonging, superiority, inferiority, fear, separation, hierarchy, power, unfairness etched into my young veins. These two have formed a paradigm informed by the world around me, and they form part of the unconscious bias I hold as a privileged white woman that I need to seek to uncover and shift within myself for the rest of my life. We all have paradigms within us, many of them. A paradigm is a mindset or a worldview, and most of the time they are so unconscious that they go unnoticed and unquestioned in our lives. Tonight, I'm going to ask us to do just that, though, to notice them and to question them, to be intentional with our lives instead of just picking up whatever comes along the way. I'm going to leave you at the end of this talk with 3 questions, not answers, but questions that can help you to deepen your awareness and to shift to the type of paradigm that I believe we really need far more of in this world, one that will lead us in a path that is far more inclusive, generative, and sustainable. So, to illustrate the importance of shifting our paradigms, I'm going to bring to the stage tonight one that I feel we all share, and that is Westernization. The Western paradigm, with its focus on individualism, rationalism, capitalism, a primary focus on economic growth, consumerism, is a paradigm that is growing everywhere. To show us and use an example, I'm going to use a t-shirt to illustrate this Western paradigm. This t-shirt is a symbol of fast fashion, which is one of the many outputs of Westernization. The fast fashion paradigm I'm going to share with you is, I'm going to share some rather salient and very sobering facts around this industry. In the fast fashion industry, instead of the typical 2 seasons, summer and winter, big global fashion houses push 52 seasons on us each year. 1 new season a week is pushed into our shops. The fast fashion industry is renowned for its participation in modern-day slavery, with the majority of its workforce of predominantly women and children being trapped in poverty. Now think about that. They're in poverty even though they're employed. Wages are often far below a minimum wage and well below a living wage, which is the amount that would enable them to have a decent life with their families. A recent survey in a garment factory, I think it was, in Bangladesh, reported 0% of the workers stating that they earned enough money for their food. And this is despite the fact that these multinational, huge global fashion brands could pay not a minimum wage, but a living wage and still make a profit. But they choose not to. Environmentally, it takes about 2,700 liters to make a single cotton t-shirt like this one, 2,700 liters. Speaking of resources, if every human being on the planet consumed resources at the same rate as the average American, who are the epitome of the Western paradigm we are all chasing, we would need 5 Earths to sustain us. And what happens when I no longer want this t-shirt? It will likely join the 84% of unwanted clothing globally that ends up on a landfill heap. Unwanted because cheap mass production produced far too many of them, and they are now obsolete according to those trends that are pushed on us every week by those global fashion brands. Specifically, it might end up in amongst the 39,000 tons estimated in the Atacama Desert in Chile, where these big global Western brands that many of us are wearing tonight dump their unwanted clothes. Many of them, most of them, with their tags still on. Now, before we move on, I want to acknowledge that these facts and numbers, though staggering, are just statistics, and they don't often tell us or give us that heart of what it all means. So I'd like to read to you a quote by a 27-year-old fabric cutter in a garment factory in the Tirupur factory in India, who was quoted saying this on the Panoprium website about his experience of his work, cutting fabric. Ibrahim says, "With the meager wages we get, we do not have enough funds for the most basic requirements for our families. We work long hours, usually 12, 16, and sometimes 24 hours a day to earn more. Because of this, we do not have any time to spend with our families or to play with our children. We are nothing but slaves. Many people here have lost their lives because they could not afford to go to a private clinic or a private hospital. Whichever political party comes to power in the state, they will provide no solution to our misery." I wonder if Ibrahim cut the fabric that made this t-shirt. Could absolutely have been him. Or maybe he cut the fabric of one of the garments one of you is wearing. Unravelling the story of this t-shirt reveals the shared threads of systemic injustice that was present in the apartheid story with my dad, and is also present in Ibrahim's experience. One focused on racial superiority, and the other on profit-driven capitalism. When we think about this, we need to stop, and we need to become aware of those paradigms. One of the best gifts I ever received from my father that day when he stood up against that shop owner were the values I took back and took into my life of kindness, courage, and justice. We too have the opportunity of standing up against those paradigms around us, all of them, all over the place, that perpetuate exploitation. Every single day, we have the opportunity to perpetuate injustices, just like those that Ibrahim face, or like people different to us face, like the black gentleman my dad stood up for that day, or that the environment, like the Atacama Desert, face. And what are we choosing? To buy different products? To stop buying so much? To learn more about where our products come from? To explore the true impacts of our business decisions on the environment, on future generations? This brings me to the core of what I want to say tonight, and that is, we as a planet are in trouble. We as a species have a lot to answer for. And there's countless research to show that it is primarily this Western mindset that is at the root of this individualism, capitalism, rampant consumerism, and unchecked growth that is at the root of the problems we are facing. We are learning fast what is at stake, and there are many incredible, exciting innovations, projects, solutions emerging all over the globe. We sit now with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Some of you may have heard of those, the SDGs. These provide an incredible framework for us to follow around what needs to change. Things like gender equality, sustainable cities, affordable and clean energy, climate action, zero hunger. You get the picture. But the what that needs to change is only possible if we focus on how we need to change. That is, it's the paradigm that needs to change. Albert Einstein is reported to have said, "The world as we have created it is a product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." Sort of not coming out of Albert Einstein's quote, but in service of this, there's even a fast emerging movement called the IDGs, or Inner Development Goals, which are emerging now in support of the SDGs because it's become so painfully obvious that we have got no hope of reaching them by 2030 as hoped. I stand here, fortunately, on a stage, in a city, in a country, and on a continent that knows instinctively how to reach that paradigm that we are looking for, or to move towards it. We need to shift to a paradigm that values community, Ubuntu, that sees harmony with nature and holistic approaches to the well-being of all life. I'm going to illustrate this paradigm that we've got from Africa using that iconic image, the baobab tree. And those of you, most of you here will know from Africa, when you look at a baobab tree, you can be tempted to think that it is an upside-down tree with its roots in the air. What's great about this tree is it's actually inviting us to do exactly what we have to do, turning our paradigm upside down. So this beautiful gift of Mother Nature gives us a completely different way of looking at life and work. And it's going to do so by creating a completely different C-suite. You would have heard of a C-suite in business. You know, your chief executive officer, your COO, your CFO, etc. The baobab tree invites us into looking at a completely different C-suite altogether. Let me show you. In my work as a learning and leadership specialist, I've identified 7 C's in this baobab framework and counting. Tonight, I'm going to share with you 3 that can help us move towards this paradigm that can bring some of this hope and joy and sustainability and regeneration on our planet. The first C in the Baobab C-suite for tonight is consciousness. The Baobab tree stands tall and strong and proud. It is called the tree of life, and it is a reminder of the importance of valuing all life and the interconnectedness of all things, and working and living in harmony with nature. The second C in our C-suite is courage. The Baobab tree stands courageously tall in environments that are often incredibly harsh and challenging. If we are to have any hope of reaching our sustainable development goals, we need to have courage to take risks, to make bold decisions, and to stand up for what's right. Research shows, from Brené Brown, who we mentioned earlier, research shows that vulnerability is at the core of courage. Our courage lies in our ability to work with ambiguity, with the unknown, to value failure as learning, and to ask for help. And our final C in the Baobab C-suite for the evening is compassion. The Baobab tree provides water and shelter for countless insects, plants, animals, humans. Its huge, hollow trunk can store thousands of liters of water. Our new paradigm needs to echo this collective spirit, where we care as much for ourselves, our businesses, our employees, our consumers, our customers, our clients, our value chain, our suppliers, our communities, our environment, and our future generations. So this is the invitation from Africa, from the Baobab tree. An invitation for us to come together, Ubuntu, and rise up from metaphorical, waste-filled landfills with consciousness, courage, and compassion. An invitation for us to stop seeing business as the generation of profits at all cost for shareholder gain, and instead to see businesses as a living expression of our shared intention, vision, and hope for our sustainable future. To make this practical, I'm going to leave you with those 3 questions that you can ask yourself, your friends, your family, your teams every day, and ask them intentionally. The first question comes from consciousness. What do you see that I need to see? The second question, from courage, what is the vulnerability that needs to be heard? And the third question comes from compassion. What do I feel inside myself and in nature that needs to be felt? Thank you.